Okay, well, wonderful to have you all here. Thank you so much for volunteering to get things started today and to kick off our content. So, folks, happy to take questions as we're going along. Get your hands in the air if you do have any questions. Hopefully the coffee will kick in at some point soon, and there'll be plenty of hands in the air. But maybe we'll start with some quick introductions just to kick things off. Tia, maybe I can begin with you.
Yes, so Tia Rantanen, and I'm from Stockmann. It's a premium department store chain in the Nordics. We have 8 department stores in Finland and 2 in the Baltics, plus e-com. Nice
Thank you,
to be here.
Tia.
Yeah, my name is German Schulz, responsible for brand management in the First Division Football Club, VfL Wolfsburg, owned by Volkswagen, so a special thing in German Bundesliga. And in this particular case, also working very close together with my colleague who is responsible for sustainability. So that's my...
Yeah, thanks, German.
So I still can't get over how many people are here. I'm so impressed. I did a panel in a ski resort at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's 200 seats, and there's literally 3 people sat in it. So kudos to everybody that's dragged themselves out of bed. My name's Alex Cheeseman. I head up the enterprise business for Outbrain. Outbrain works with agencies and brands to help find new customers, build brand, drive performance on most of the world's leading publishers.
Great to have you all here. Thanks so much. And great to have you all here as well. Echo Alex's sentiments there. So I think we'll maybe kick things off, maybe just by taking a look at what is working well for you in terms of sustainability, what you're doing. And Tia, I'll again kick things off with you, if I may.
Yeah, okay. So being a department store, we have to always balance. We are selling items, and at the same time, we kind of have to keep in mind the kind of conscious consuming. And how do we encourage, on one hand, to people to buy from us, but then make sure that we do it sustainably. So we have a few key topics. First of all, because we are a premium department store, then the brands generally that we sell are more higher quality. So the key issue there is that they last longer, and even if you don't want that anymore, then the garment has a second or third life after that. Then we have our own brands where we have a very strong sustainability story. They are private label. We design them in Finland with strict design principles, and we have a good story to our consumers on that, and that has been very, very well received. We are constantly growing our sort of sustainable brands offering for our consumers, and are very carefully listening our 1.4 million loyalty customers on what would they like to see in our offering. And then sort of on the operational side, trying to cut our emissions, then solar power. We just built the biggest solar power in Finland to feed our logistics center just outside Helsinki. And then I suppose the biggest undertaking that will take the most of our time for the foreseeable future, bar compliance, is science-based targets. We committed to the science-based targets, and will reduce our emissions 42% come 2030. And if you think that we have 300,000 SKUs and 1,500 suppliers, then going through that, and 80% of our emissions comes from those sport products. So we have work cut out for us.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tia. I'd love to see that commitment. At least I know there's a lot of work and a long journey ahead. German, let's come to you. I know you've been award-winning in terms of your sustainability efforts.
Yeah, the award we won last year was a German Sustainability Award. Is mainly done because we are now investing into sustainability for more than 12 years, which is 12 years ago no one was really interested in sustainability in sports. And we try to, and the second thing, which is I think is very important, we try to invest in a holistic way throughout the whole club. Not just we don't just have one department, but every employee, every stakeholder within the club is responsible to look for sustainability. So these are the main reasons. And football, I think sports at all has a chance to inspire for some social issues, like sustainability is one, and we know that there is enormous social pressure coming up also from the fans. We know that more than 74% of the fans are interested into sustainability, and they want to know what we are doing about sustainability. And the interesting thing is, I'm now within sustainability within sports for more than 15 years. And in the beginning, it was just a social issue. Now it's becoming a business issue because, for example, saving energy was always a discussion, maybe sometimes, because you have to invest. We just talked about it. We invested into LED floodlights, which just need 25% of the energy you have with the old floodlights. But this is a heavy invest you have to do. But now coming up with the energy crisis, with the wars, this is really also a business issue.
How do you know that the customers are interested in sustainability?
We do market researches, and we know it from companies we work together with. For example, the UN, they have a special program called Climate for Sports, and we work very closely together with them, and they also take some research on that, and we try to figure out what it's done. But we also have market research within our stadium. For example, there are more and more fans who ask for regional and vegan products in the stadium. So that is, and for example, there are lots of fans who are willing to pay extra money if they can sell €1 for a carbon footprint to get the product.
That's
so that
incredible.
is really, yeah.
That is, I'm not sure whether we'll come to that a little bit later, but there is the issue of how much are consumers willing to pay. And in fashion, that's very, very difficult balance to find.
We absolutely will come on to that because I think it's a fascinating area. Alex, you don't work directly in sustainability, but I think perhaps that is part of the point of having you on this panel, that sustainability is actually everybody's business these days. So I'd be interested to get a perspective from you on what sustainability means for you when you kind of think of it in this marketing context.
Yeah, I'm the imposter on this panel. So I work in media and advertising, and media and advertising leaves a massive carbon footprint. I think Scope 3 has a stat that 25 million tons of carbon is emitted from digital advertising a month, which is quite significant. So if I think about our business, our clients, and their need for sustainability, what we've tried to do is to help drive advertising efficiency and effectiveness. So how can we reduce the carbon footprint of data centers? So, making sure that all of the energy that we have running through those is from renewable sources. We've launched sustainable products with market leaders such as Sidara and Scope 3. We're working with partners to ensure that there's less wastage. So how do you drive attention with your media so that you're not wasting money on MFAs or sites where nobody's seeing your advertising? So it's a big part of what we do.
Yeah, and maybe we can kind of pick up on some of these points around this being a business issue, because hopefully we've sort of moved past the stage where it's kind of seen as a fluffy kind of tree-hugging concept, and actually people are recognising that it does have a business impact. Again, and maybe I can pick up on some of the ideas that you were saying. How are you kind of making that business case for sustainability, and how are you ensuring that the whole organisation comes with you on that journey?
Yeah,
and consumers too, fans.
Yeah, fans are interested in sustainability anyway. We have a young target audience, and they are more and more interested into it. And we have the social pressure. We have regulatory pressure, also with the big events. I was just wondering, we just talked about, if we just see, for example, Bundesliga, 60% of our carbon footprint are by traveling for the fans and the teams. So that is quite difficult to reduce, but you can work on that, and you can, I think the biggest impact football can have is to inspire the fans to take their own footsteps into sustainability. They can do it in merchandising. For example, we work together with a startup sustainability app called Umadum, where they try to put the people into the position to get some points if they react sustainable. So if they go by bike to the stadium instead of by car. They can collect some points, and they can afterwards, if they have enough points, they can take that into our merchandise and get some stuff, for example. So it's a wide range, but in the first point, I think it's years ago when I was on a conference, and where a leader said he would never take two things he would never give into a department, that is digitalization and sustainability, because everyone has to be aware that he is responsible for digitalization and for sustainability. So it's also a question of getting every stakeholder into this, and transparency is very important if you talk about sustainability, to make it transparent what you do about sustainability. That is why we have now for 12 years we have a certified sustainability report where everyone can read through and maybe get some ideas how to make sports more sustainable in the field we are in. We just talked about, I think alone in Bundesliga we have each weekend 800,000 fans traveling around for games throughout Germany each weekend. And that's a heavy point, but this is not so easy to reduce. But you have different other points where you can reduce it.
Well, let's maybe follow up on some of those points, and Tia, the point that you made just a moment ago, because there's a bit of a difference between fans being interested or consumers being interested in sustainability and them being willing to pay more or to inconvenience themselves to kind of, be greener. So how are you kind of tackling that, and what does it look like in the retail industry?
We're working also with our customers. Like I said, we have a loyalty program with 1.4 million customers, and they're hugely important to us, so we do surveys as well to find out. We also have something called Lean Lab, where we have about 1,000 loyal customers there, and that's very quick. We can kind of get a pulse on something if we want to do. One thing is then that how do we develop those more sustainable brands, and making sure that the price point doesn't kind of go too high and then there isn't a consumer for that. There is a small minority who is willing to pay, but unfortunately, even though people tend to say that they would prefer more sustainable fashion, then when it comes to that you have to pay 10, 15, 20, 25 euros more, then that doesn't happen. But the other way what we are also doing is helping them to be more sustainable. We offer recycling options with several different companies for items for fashion and furniture that are no longer resellable. We are constantly developing different resale models. We have one that sells, is a tenant for us, so they handle their own business in our premises, second-hand shop. We have another model with something called Niñez in a children's department, so where you can bring your old children's clothes and they will be resold by us. They are there with the kids department, not obviously mentioned that these are second-hand, but they're with the new items as well. And in return, when they sell the items, they will get a gift card for Stockmann, and it's actually proven now that when you get that gift card and you come and purchase with it, you buy 1.4 times the gift card amount. So in that sense, it's good business for us.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tia. Alex, how are you kind of thinking about this? Because you ask 100 people in the street if they're interested in sustainability, and you probably get 100 people saying, yes, they are, of course, care about sustainability. But, how do you kind of drive action on sustainability? What are you seeing be successful?
Within advertising and media, or generally?
Well, both, generally, but, then also, specifically about how you're kind of driving change and affecting change.
I think everybody deep down wants to be more sustainable. I think that's a given. It's table stakes. I think that there's a reality now, which is a lot of people, although they're saying they want to be sustainable, they're realizing that it's not profitable, right? And I'd be curious actually to understand, if you weren't sustainable, how many fans you would lose. Because there's a reality, which is people really want to wear the badge. When it comes to the crunch, how much are they willing to give? And I use the example, right? There's the new CEO of Unilever. Unilever is a wonderful company, has incredible sustainability goals. They aim to reduce their plastics by 30% by 2025. They pushed that. They pushed that to 2026. They started to sell off some of their ice cream businesses, which are massive carbon emissions. You'd think that that would have a negative effect, right? The fact that they're pushing back on some of their commitments. But if you look at their share price for the past 6 months, it's driven up 26%. So the tension that we have is, I think everybody in this room would agree that we want to be more sustainable, but we have to balance that off with the world that we live in, which is driven by quarter by quarter shareholder results and the cost and impact of that. And that's a challenge that I don't think anybody can really solve. There's some incredible brands out there that are truly built from the ground up with sustainability, and they're in a really good place. But when you have legacy businesses that aren't built from the ground and they're trying to adapt, it's a lot harder when you have pressures, right? And I don't have the answers. All I can do is provide solutions, which is if we have advertisers that come to us and they believe in sustainability, then we can give them solutions that will reduce their carbon footprint. And that's great. But it's only a small piece. And again, we could sit in this room now and we could debate all these different solutions. But until countries like China or India stop using coal, like what we're doing is fractional, like absolutely fractional. And I would never deny any country to go through the Industrial Revolution that we all went through 150 years ago. But we've still got this bigger problems that need to be solved. So I'd almost challenge the question to be not what can we do individually as businesses and companies, but what does the world need to do to shift and change it? And that's a technology discussion. And I think we can solve it, right? Because if you look back to some of history's challenges, early 19th century in New York, before the combustion engine, everybody was absolutely fearful that the entire city would be covered in horse manure because there were so many horses. So they were looking to solve that specific problem. How do we get less horse manure in New York? Well, the solution was you get the combustion engine and remove the horse. I think we'll go through the same thing. And I think the world that we live in is set up for that because we're in a world of exponential growth and exponential change, right? Which means things will adapt faster. So I'm optimistic, but I don't have the solutions.
No.
Maybe tapping a little bit what you said about Unilever, I think maybe there is also that the consumer or the population is a little bit more lenient in sustainability in a sense, as long as you're transparent. Yeah. So that if it's not possible, then tell us and tell me what you're trying to do instead, the goal that you set. So I think that's kind of part of the equation as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of maybe an interesting juncture to bring in the role of marketing into the sustainability question here. Because there's an element of storytelling, of course, but you need to be authentic in that. We've all seen challenges around greenwashing, accusations of greenwashing. So how does marketing strike that balance between being transparent, making progress on sustainability, but also not falling foul of accusations of greenwashing?
Yeah, I think we had our fair share of sort of mishaps with that. Maybe I go into that in a minute, but again, we work with the consumer. One sort of platform that we have an opportunity to talk about sustainability and our brands and how can consumers be more sustainable is our kind of live shopping events. Very, very popular, where it's actually a commercial message lasting 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and people are coming and tuning in, and we're using influencers to kind of head those and do deep dives with brands. So that's a very sort of interactive way to engage with our consumers. That's one example. Then obviously what you have in store with labels and signage on products that are sustainable. But kind of what happened to us some years back now is that in all goodness of our hearts, we set a green leaf sign for certain clothes that we marked on a page that are part of our sustainable collection. And we had criteria set on the page, which meant mainly to do with the materials, the fabrics of those items. And Consumer Watchdog contacted us and said that is misleading marketing because we're doing it. But we said that, but this is the criteria, we're quite transparent. But their point of view was that we cannot use it because we're only telling part of the story. That all in all, if we take the whole life cycle of that product, is it more sustainable than the product that is not labeled with the leaf? And we had to take the leaf down. So, it's a balance.
Yeah, that whole model's broken, isn't it? Like, has anyone seen that documentary on Netflix about the sustainable fishing, you know, with the tuna. Yeah, you've seen it. so essentially, you go into a supermarket and you see all of these tuna cans, right? And it's got this little label on the side which says certified, right? Sustainable fishing. You go, you know what, I'm going to buy that one versus that one because it is sustainable. And you carry on as normal. It's the same as thinking if a doctor gives you advice, you should take that as good advice. The documentary dug into where does this label come from and how are they checking it? And the reality is that the organization that is giving you this certification for the tuna is a small office in the US that maybe sits on one or two of the hundreds of thousands of fishing boats that are out there. And ultimately, you just pay to get that certification. Right, which is bonkers, right? And so you're doing incredible stuff. You're not necessarily doing the full picture, but there's third-party bodies that are coming in there and actually trying to stop you from doing things. And it just, again, it's frustrating because we just want to do good stuff. Let people be honest. And to your point about storytelling, if you do good things, tell good stories, and people will listen. If you try to cover up, people are smart. And I just think, just do good stuff, tell people about it, and you'll win.
Yeah. How are you tackling some of these issues, Gemma?
It's not always about winning the race. For example, we have taken a race with the UN in the climate action in sports, where we said we want to be up to 2025. We want to be netto carbon free, which is not possible. You have to buy certificates, for example, to really get to that point. We will not get to that point until 2025, and our PR people said, oh, how can you get into a race when you know it could be possible that you don't win the race? And we said, it's not about the race, it's about the way we go. And we want to go into that, even we know we maybe not win, but if you never start a race, you have never the chance to get to the end. So that is a difference, and I think especially sports has big chance to inspire people because the players, they are role models, they are brand ambassadors. We have within our CSR department, we have two big issues we are working on. One is sustainability and the other one is diversity. Each captain from our team, from the youth to the women to the men teams, they all wear the rainbow flag. So we always try to inspire people, not to teach them how to behave, but we try to inspire when we go forward. We have with all our employees and stakeholders, we have 2 times throughout the season, we have a day where we work together on social projects, where we try to keep the action. It's called Tomorrow Together. We do it together with our fans, so players, employees and fans together go into different social projects working on sustainability and diversity. So this is our approach to get the people not always talking about what is not happening, but get into the race and try to make the world a little bit better. We all know that, as I said, with all the traveling in Bundesliga, you always have a sustainable problem in some cases, but that's not the main point.
You nailed it, right? I think sustainability isn't a goal. It's like yoga, it's a way of life. And we're really good at saying, let's do something by this date or this date and tick all these boxes. But actually, if you want to be true, you've got to continue to do it and evolve it and do it every day as a practice. I think that's a super smart way of looking at it.
And we learn so much about sustainability by getting into it. We have so many smart startups working together. We have, for example, we have Guppy France, which is a small German startup, and they are caring about microplastics a lot. Microplastics is a problem in sports. If you wash all your stuff, you need, and they have just a very easy. They took a net between the washing machines, and when it comes back, so you learn a lot about that. Umadum is another example where they try to make people aware of sustainability, coming to events, coming to sports events. It's not that everyone is taking it. That's not the point, but just to make them aware and inspire them. I think mostly the most discussions I have with my sustainable colleague is maybe, especially the Germans, they always want to teach how to keep sustainable. And that's not the point. I think you can just from a marketing point, you can just inspire people to think about their own sustainable footprint. And if, for example, a great player is really talking about it and saying, I'm taking sustainability, I'm taking serious, that's much better than any politician or any teacher is talking about that.
Yeah, I love that, this idea of inspiring a philosophical shift. And I almost hate to do this, but I'd also like to kind of drag it back to this idea of metrics and measurement, because I think they are useful tools in benchmarking your progress, inspiring others, telling the story. So I'd be interested to get some views from you on what metrics and measurements are proving successful for you in tracking your sustainability efforts and how you're telling that story.
Yeah, maybe if I so science-based targets will be our kind of main framework, and through that we have very hard figures how to proceed. We submitted our targets last October, and they got approved by the Science Based Target Organization in March. So unfortunately, we are still in the kind of midst of figuring out how do we tell that story going forward. So that's to be seen for us.
The way we measure is the certified sustainability report, which is really a special thing my colleague is doing. I just try to read through to get also my new ideas on working on that. But as I said, we have, I think we have cut, for example, energy more than 25% by just looking into every single point we have around the games, and the stadium is very energy driven. But you can also, for example, we have reduced water for the greenkeepers by taking just the water from the, we have a Midland Canal, I don't know the English word, so we don't take drinking water for that reason. Mm-hmm. There are so many small things you can do that are measurable, and in some cases it's an invest, but as I said, coming with the energy crisis, it's no more just a social issue, it's a business issue. So my colleague in the CSR department is getting more and more up, because now, for example, also sustainability is a part of the licensee. If you are allowed to play in the Bundesliga, you have to fulfill some sustainable regulations. But the best for us is the sustainability report, because this is done by an agency that is independently, and we learn a lot from each sustainability report. Now 10 years going away, and you always find something new where you can put a small package on.
Yeah, thanks. Alex, how about you?
Ours is really easy, actually. We give money back to our clients because they don't need to spend as much money on media. So everyone in this room knows that media is incredibly wasteful, and that's for a number of different reasons. There's a few academic studies. A wonderful woman called Dr. Karen Nelson-Field heads up a business called Amplified Intelligence. She did a study to understand if you're spending £100,000 on media, how effective is that media? Now, if you're setting viewability thresholds of 70%, that means that immediately 30,000 of your media is gone because no one's even going to see it. And of that 70%, how much is being seen enough to encode new memory structures? And her study showed that only 17% is being viewed for 2.5 seconds. So that means you're spending 100,000, but only 17,000 of that is being affected. So think about all of that wastage. So what we do is we work with attention measurement partners to try to reduce the amount of negative, poor media, and just focus budgets and shift that 17% to 20, 30, 40%. Because if you do that, you'll get exactly the same results. So our job is to help clients to be more sustainable by spending less money but being more effective.
Yeah, great stuff. I'll take a pause now maybe and see if there are any questions or thoughts on sustainability. Anyone want to share their experience? Oh yeah, we've got a hand in the air here. We'll get a mic to you.
Thank you. Hello. This is Edina. I'm working at Warner Brothers Discovery. So one of our pillars, our strategic pillars we call social good, we gave it and the name social good, is force for good and force for growth. So trying to find areas where we can intertwine our business objectives with our social good KPIs. So I'm very curious if you found any ways of blending the two, so finding a way of making money or getting commercial upside by still pursuing your social impact or CSR goals. It's a tough one, and usually they're going in different directions, but for us it's really important to tackle this. So I'm very curious if you found some solutions to this.
It's literally the million-dollar question. So who wants to maybe take that one first? Any ideas?
I think football is something maybe different in some cases from classic companies. But for example, the two parts where we get where we have the highest growth is sponsoring partners, finding into these teams, because we have a right story to tell. And coming to brand awareness, for example, if you pay on your brand value, this is also keeping us up in the brand value compared to other football clubs, which maybe are more competitive on the field, but do nothing about women's football, for example, or about sustainability. So that is done by, we have a brand finance of football, it's called, it's a big survey they do every year. And I think we are not expected, if you just look on the pitch, we are not expected to be there, but because we have other things we invest into our brand value, that is keeping us up in the end.
Thanks, German. Alex, you talked a moment ago about this idea of effectiveness and reducing spend on behalf of your clients. Is sustainability a part of the story that you're telling there?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, because the less impressions that you have, the less AI that you're using in data, the greater the reduction in carbon. But to answer your question, because it's such a broad topic, right, and there's so many different levels to it, I can answer from a theoretical, strategic perspective, right? And it all comes down to measurement. Like everything comes down to measurement. If you've got enough data and you've got the right correlations and patterns to look at, if I move this lever here, my sustainability increases by this %, but actually my goal. If you have that measurement framework and that dashboard in place, that's the excellent starting point. And then I think we touched on it yesterday, which is it's great having all of the data, it's great having all of the results, but until you've got internal stakeholder buy-in, then none of it will really matter, because if the exec team isn't bought into it, you can have really good results, or you can have ambitions, but nothing will change. So it's those two pieces, like governance, strategy, and measurement. But it's really general, sorry.
Great stuff. Any other questions? Not currently. What I would like to, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'd maybe like to spend a bit of time talking about actionable steps that folks can take, practical learnings that from your own sustainability journey that you can perhaps share with the group on either what's working well, what to avoid, mistakes that you've made. Who wants to take that one first? Who's got, if I was to ask you to name the single most important practical step that you would recommend for the audience here to take?
I mean, I'll start, just because it's probably going to be the worst answer of the three. But if you're not trying to deliver sustainability through your media, then without a shadow of a doubt, have a look at something like Onyx by Outbrain, because it's a sustainable first media buy, and it will reduce your carbon footprint, and it will give you better results, and you can go to bed knowing that you've made the world a better place. Now for the good answer.
That's the honest answer. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, it's not easy to answer, but whenever I discuss it with my colleague who's really doing it 24/7, we talked about the transformation and the structural challenges you have when transforming, for example, a football club or a company into it. And he said there are 3 very important things to make it for a success. And the first is anchoring sustainability in the whole company, not just the department. This is really a question of anchoring it in the whole company. Second is to engage the stakeholders, like not just talking about, but really engaging them, getting into action, showing how that it's also about fun. It's not just about you have to do it and it's just brutal work. No, that can also be fun. And the third is create transparency, because if you create transparency, also your customer or your fans, in our case our fans, understand why we do it, and they see some success, even if you don't get to the race to zero to 2025. But I think they in the end they think it's a good way to do the race, even if not winning it.
Yeah, thanks, German. Tia, how about
I
yourself?
would probably say that makes sure that sustainability is everybody's business. I think we probably made a little bit of a mistake some years back already, that it was sustainability department's job, and I think it's everybody's responsibility, and make it fun as well.
Yeah, and what's marketing's role in that? For the marketers in the room here, where does marketing fit into that?
Well, I suppose, at least for the internal PR, I mean, we're the singers and some dancers, so it's our job to make it fun internally.
Yeah, we have, for example, we have one climate day and one diversity day every season where we do it together with all our fans, our stakeholders, and also the players, and that's always fun. That's not, and they can learn something about things they haven't thought about before. Maybe not to drive to the stadium by car. For example, the teams, they now start to travel as much as possible by train, which is not, they used to fly even the smallest way. These are all very, very small points, but I think in the end, every small point is giving one big challenge.
Yeah, thanks. Alex, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think just, again, sustainability is like yoga, right? We all know that we should be doing it all the time, and if we do it every single day, then we're going to get much better at it. Some days we'll get up and do our yoga practice, some days we won't, but just try to keep doing it and know that it's a way of life, it's not an end goal.
Lovely stuff. Folks, a round of applause for our panel. Many thanks to Alex, to German, and to Tia. Wonderful stuff.